When Trump cut the funds for the child care that helped people all over the country to assist with daycare payments, we know it's a little bit more than just what the Somalis are doing. Okay, because I know we talk about the Somali issue and all of that, but with them, they always looking for a lane. But I want you to pay attention to what this particular white lady is saying, because that's really what a lot of it is. And I want to kind of go through what she's talking about. Let's check this out.
I hope people understand just how serious and how planned this all was to force more women out of the workforce than any other point in history since the end of World War II. Trump has cut federal funding to daycare centers in every state. And all they needed was a virgin chud to show up at daycare centers either during off hours or with two men and a camera demanding access to small children, pretending not to know that the reason they're locked down is because of men like them. This was planned in Project 2025. And for the women who think this isn't going to affect them because they don't get federal funding for their daycare, they're going to be in shock. When you cut funding to the bare bones daycare centers, well, then they close. And then the middle tier, they start raising their prices because their wait list goes up. And then the hoity-toity fancy daycare centers, well, their prices go up too. And when women can't afford these daycare centers, they start to close. And then women can go back to these violent marriages that J.D. Vance is such a fan of. And then they convince girls in high school that there's really no point in going off and getting a career and an education because you won't be able to use it anyway if you decide to have a child. This is some handmade stuff, and it was planned, and it is an attack on women everywhere.
Now, what this woman is saying, it has a lot to do with it. You have to understand that the way that a lot of those men think, especially with things in Project 2025, they want to get a lot of women out the workforce. And the reason why they want to get women out the workforce is multiple reasons, but definitely one within their community for sure, is that they want their women back in the household to have their babies. You understand? Because when women are making money, women are independent, then they're not so quick to marry. They're not so quick to put up with a whole lot of things when they don't really need to be financially dependent on men. And you have to understand the patriarchy system, that is something that was created by them in this country. Let's say the way they do it, okay? Now, you look at the black family. Black men and black women always work together from slavery all the way up to now. Black women, had families. Black women worked, had babies and everything, and say, I got to go to work today. So, a lot of times grandma would take care of the babies. We wouldn't put no babies in no daycare. That I think that's the sad part of today is that we don't have the grandmas no more like they used to. But grandma was grandma age when the kids were being had at that time period. Nowadays, they're having kids and grandma is 35. Grandma is 40. Grandma haven't stopped working herself. So how can she stay home to take care of kids like when my grandmother was back in the day? Can't do that when grandma's still working herself. So that's a lot of it. So they have to kind of put them in daycare and places like that. Now, how I feel about daycare is in order for you to be a church, to be a 501c3, they should be a daycare. They should be a daycare. And they should be taking care of kids at these daycares. And I believe the government should help the church, give the churches those funds. Because if you have a church, you should have a daycare. And then the government can give the church the funds. And then I'm okay with that, giving that to the church for that reason. But every church should have a daycare where people, of course, they can only put kids in there to a certain capacity. Of course, members have, first dibs at the child care, of course, and everybody else after the fact. But it should be definitely churches. But they don't want to help with anything. You got to think about it. The job cuts. They cut a lot of women out of jobs. You look at all the black women that's been let go from a lot of jobs, right? Why? Because they trying to cut women out. If a woman have an issue, we're not talking about somebody just get pregnant and just want to just get rid of a baby. No. Even with situations with an issue like a medical issue or incest and things like that, they don't even want them to terminate pregnancies even for those reasons, right? So you say, well, what are they doing? Then really next, you remember the woman talking about J.D. Vance, they're going to go after no-fault divorce next. In other words, they're not going to say you can't divorce, but they're going to make it hella difficult and hella expensive. Kind of like how it is on men, basically. Men know that, am I sure this is what I want to do? Because you know the hell you about to go through socially and financially if you go out and get just up and divorce your wife for some reason. See, most men don't jump up and say, I'm not happy. I don't want to be here no more. Because we know, you say that, it's going to be a social consequence and it's going to be a financial consequence for you saying something like that. And so they want to prevent the women from leaving as easy as they leave now. So this is their part of their play to try to, like I said, it's going to affect all women, of course, but it's their play really too to get their woman back in line. Because see, you got to understand, those men, they can't function in a society of equality, even with their women. Their women can't be equal to them. Because if you know this, DEI programs elevated a lot of white women to positions that they wouldn't have got. But yet they understand this country, they understand racism, so they're going to say, oh, it's black people benefit off of DEI. Oh, they did? Take it away. But when you look at the numbers and you look at facts, it elevated a lot of white women to high dollar positions. They know that. Trust me, they know the numbers. But they know they cannot get nothing taken away by going at their women. So they're going to sit up here and just lie on black people like they always do. Black people. You look at the Somali situation. Yes, a lot of Somalis were committing fraud. Yes, but let's call it what it is. You shut down all 50 states, not just even the city that they're in. Maybe I wouldn't even say it's fair to even shut down the whole state of Minnesota. But the whole country? No. You use that Somali situation to get what you really wanted. You wanted to cut the child care back so you can force the women. Because think about it. If women don't have child care, then they're going to have to be quitting their jobs because they don't have anybody to take care of their children. That is the plan. That's the plan right there. Not nice, but yet that's supposed to be the party of pro-life. Well, pro-life means you should be taking care of children. That's pro-life to me, but they don't want to do that. So she get it, but hey, at the end of the day, that's the men of your community, ma'am. The men of your community is doing this. And you're complaining, you need to go talk to the men of your community. That's just really what it is. Unfortunately, we live here, so we got to deal with it too, our people. But black people, one thing about us, we always going to make it. We always going to figure out a way, and we always going to make it. Bottom line. Always, we're going to figure it out. We have done a whole lot more for less. And we still here, and we still going to figure it out, and we're going to be very well off in the end. Because one thing about us, we know how to make it with nothing. But do y'all know how to make it with nothing? Do you know how to feed yourself with nothing? No, because you use everything being handed to you. So there are also a lot of white women that did vote for Trump. So you need to ask the white women that need child care help that voted for Trump, how do you like them apples?